There's a very specific kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with working too hard. It's the exhaustion of living a double life. It's that friction between the guy that the world sees, the one who's disciplined, capable, and moving forward, and the person you become at 11 o'clock at night with a bag of chips on your lap. That sinking feeling in your chest isn't just guilt, it's a diagnosis. If your plan to change your life requires you to be strong, you've already failed. In fact, the harder you try to use your willpower, the faster you're ensuring your own collapse. We've been taught by every online guru that discipline is a muscle and that you just need to find more grit. But that's a lie designed by people who don't understand how the human brain actually functions. I don't want you to be stronger. The point of this video is that strength is brittle. Strength breaks. I want you to be colder. I'm here to tell you that willpower is a scam. If you're relying on it to change your life, you've lost the war already. You just haven't accepted the invoice yet. The reason isn't because you're weak, it's because you're human and you're trying to use a tool that was never designed for a long-term race. Let's look at what it actually is and what's happening under the hood. Physically, your brain is a masterpiece of efficiency. It's designed that way by evolution, but it's a masterpiece with a split personality too. On one hand, you have the prefrontal cortex. That's the visionary part. It's the part of you that wants the business, the healthy body, and the legacy. But here's the problem. The prefrontal cortex only accounts for about 4 to 10% of your total brain volume. It's this tiny modern penthouse sitting on top of a massive ancient skyscraper. Deep in the basement of the skyscraper, you have the basal ganglia. That thing is 500 million years old. It doesn't speak English, it doesn't care about your vision board or your 5-year goals. It only cares about one thing: efficiency. To that ancient part of your brain, a habit isn't good or bad. It's just a shortcut. It's a way to save energy. So when you try to use willpower to change, you're asking that tiny 4% visionary who's already tired and overworked to go into a dark alley and fist fight with a 500 million year old survival machine, the basal ganglia. That makes up the rest of your head, and you're expecting to do the 4% to do the 100% of the heavy lifting. So who do you think wins that fight at midnight on a Tuesday? You get the point. Willpower is a finite chemical resource. It's a battery. And every time you ignore an annoying social media comment, every time you force a smile at a meeting or choose the protein over the pizza, you are draining that battery. By the time you get home, the battery is dead. And that's exactly when the ancient machine takes the wheel. Now, we have to ask why the habit keeps winning, even when we know it's killing us. It's because bad habits don't survive on our desire, they survive on darkness. They survive on the tiny, polite lies we tell ourselves to keep the lights off. See, you begin to see this dynamic in every person who's stuck. Think about the language that we use on a day-to-day basis. We say things like, I've had a long day, or I'll just start fresh on Monday, or at least I'm not as bad as that guy. And at that point, you aren't evaluating your behavior anymore. You're arguing for it. You're building a legal case for your own stagnation, and as long as you're defending the habit owns you. So I want to tell you about an entrepreneur I knew named Mark. It's going to help drive this point home. Mark was brilliant. He had the best ideas I'd heard, and he had the talent to build something massive. But Mark had a small habit. Just an hour or two every night, he would scroll and he would eat things he didn't need to be eating. He told me it was how he unwound. It was like his reward for the day for using his genius mind. But over 5 years, I watched that reward turn into a cage. It wasn't a car crash, it was a leak. He became about 5% less sharp every year. He spoke a little quieter, he hesitated just a little longer before taking any risks, and he stopped looking like a man who was in command of his soul and started looking like a man who was just waiting for the day to end. The status tax he was paying for that 1 hour of numbing was his entire destiny. So how do we fix this without trying harder? We stop being stronger and we start being cold. We use something much more powerful than willpower. We use our clarity. For the next 3 days, I don't want you to quit anything. In fact, I want you to do the habit, but I want you to do it with the lights on. I call this the cold audit. When you feel that itch, that trigger, I want you to stop and watch yourself. Don't judge, don't get emotional, just act like an accountant for your habit. Step 1 is to look at the trigger. What actually happened in the moments before you slipped? Did you get a text that annoyed you? Did you get in a fight with your wife or girlfriend? Did you feel a wave of boredom, or were you just lonely? Most habits aren't actually the thing itself. They're about escaping a feeling that you don't want to have. So write that down, whatever it was. Step 2, measure the pleasure you received. This is the part that actually hurts. It was the thing I struggled with the most. While you're doing the bad habit, I want you to honestly rate the pleasure from 1 to 10. Not what the commercial promised you, but what you're actually feeling in your body right when you do it. Is the 3rd hour of scrolling that great? Is that a 10? Or is it a 3 or 2? Is it joy, or is it just the absence of thought to eat that bag of chips? Most of the time when we actually look at the reward, we realize it's pathetic. It's a cheap, low-quality hit of dopamine that we're massively overpaying for with our own sanity. And then you have to look at the invoice. We ignore the bill because the math is terrifying, but we're gonna look at it anyways. So every time you give into that machine, you aren't just losing an hour, you're borrowing misery from tomorrow. And you're paying for it with your morning energy. You're paying for it with your self-respect too. You're paying for it with the presence you're supposed to have for your family, your work, and your partners. When you see the math clearly, and when you realize you're trading a high-level life for a 2 out of 10 dopamine comfort hit, the urge starts to look different. It starts looking like a treat. It starts looking like a raw deal, a bad deal, and you start looking like a toddler for choosing it. You don't actually quit bad habits. You outgrow them. This is exactly how you slaughter a bad habit in its tracks. You don't fight it. You shine so much light on it that it becomes impossible to ignore how small it is. You see the trigger, you see the pathetic reward, and you see the massive invoice you receive the next morning, and suddenly, you just don't want it anymore. The room you've been living in, the one built by these small, mind-numbing habits, is too small for you now. So stop trying to be a stronger version of the person in that room. Start being the person who has no use for it whatsoever. Willpower is for people who are still lying to themselves. The truth is for people who have clarity and they're ready to leave the room. So if you like this video, slap the subscribe button, join me on building the life that you deserve, and as always, you can watch my last video by clicking right here, and I'll see you in the trenches.